6:06 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, and I hope you're doing well for this Wednesday, October 22nd. All right, so Harry Sisson, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but this absolutely exploded on the socials last night. And I think that part of why I want to do this story is that it really does personify how just insane the Democrats are right now. So, got some video, gents. Last night on Piers Morgan, you got Piers, of course. You've got Harry Sisson. Now, if you don't know who Harry Sisson is, he is a basically a leftist influencer, and he was one of these guys, I believe, that was paid to spread, Joe Biden's propaganda.
He still is.
And he still is. So he's basically a leftist troll, and he spreads the leftist propaganda, which is fine. I mean, whatever. But he's on with Jack Posobiec and a woman named Isabel Brown. She, I guess, is now with the Daily Wire. But Sisson is really angry because Donald Trump targeted him in a video where, and we talked about this yesterday, where Trump is flying a plane, and you've got the plane that Trump is flying, and it's dropping, fecal matter on a bunch of the No Kings protesters, including Harry Sisson. It was very funny, and I would actually bet that Trump had no idea, and still has no idea, who Harry Sisson is. I mean, I didn't. Most of you don't either, but the younger crowd probably does. Anyway. So Sisson is on with Posobiec and Isabel Brown, and he asks the question, what high-ranking Democrat official or whatever has actually called Donald Trump Hitler? So what high-ranking Democrat has actually called Donald Trump Hitler? It didn't go well for Harry Sisson. Listen.
By the way, I'd be happy to answer the question about whether or not a high-ranking Democrat has used this rhetoric. Who is Kamala Harris?
I know. I want you to answer all the questions. I want you to answer all the questions
for you. Who is Kamala Harris?
Wait. Answer all the questions I just gave you. And can you name me when Kamala Harris said that Donald Trump is Hitler? When did Kamala Harris? Great.
Was Kamala Harris last year a high-ranking Democrat?
So basically, I think what's going on, and Joan, you can chime in here, and Sam too. But I think what Sisson is trying to do is say that no one has ever actually used the words Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. I think that's what he's trying to do, because to sit here and try to tell us that Jasmine Crockett or Tim Walz or Kamala Harris and some of these other high-ranking Democrats have not called Donald Trump Hitler by using other language, including, remember that whole thing in Madison Square Garden last year, where Trump was going to do and did do that big event at Madison Square Garden, and the people on the left absolutely freaked out because they're talking about how this is like a big Nazi gathering like they had in, I think it was the 1920s. So Sisson, and if you're watching on Super Talk TV, you're going to see that once you find Jack Posobiec and also Isabel Brown, once they start telling him, oh, yeah, this person and this person and this person, his face starts contorting. Because I think what's happened is in his world of as a Democrat influencer, nobody ever gives him actual proof because he's in an echo chamber.
Well, he gets his talking points handed to him.
What do you mean? Like, literally gets his talking points? From the Biden administration.
Yeah, from the DNC.
Yes.
They'll send him and other influencers talking points, and they're almost the same scripts. And then he also tries to obfuscate by talking really, really fast and asking a whole bunch of questions at once.
Yes.
He was.
When did Kamala Harris call Donald Trump Hitler?
October of 2024. Kamala Harris said on the campaign trail, Donald Trump vowed to be a dictator on day one. His former chief of staff said he wanted generals like Hitler's. Donald Trump openly admires dictators, including Adolf Hitler. Last October, that was said on the campaign trail from the Democrat.
So Kamala Harris said this during the campaign, during the closing days.
Exactly.
And just so you know, his face, if you're not watching on Super Talk TV, if you're just listening on the radio, Harry Sisson's face, it's contorting. I don't know how else to describe it, but it is contorting in like feigned surprise and that kind of thing. So when, Sam, you told me about this story, I see why it went viral, because Sisson, he looks like a buffoon.
He's scrambling for a way to defend himself.
Right.
Campaign. It was her final campaign pitch. Is that high enough ranking for you? You guys supported her for president.
Exactly, because there have been reports that
person
Donald
that you
Trump
supported for president is someone
just relax,
who was campaigning by calling Trump Hitler.
Jack,
you're so disingenuous when you bring this stuff up.
Wait, guys.
Do people think that, I think somebody has said that he's on, is it ketamine?
Oh, really?
People talk about how Harry Sisson is on ketamine. The same thing that they accuse Elon Musk of being on. But people have said, dude, ease up on the keto. Is that what they call it, ketamine? Do I have this right?
No idea.
Okay, fine.
Ketamine, yeah.
Yeah, ketamine, right?
Yeah, keto sounds like the keto diet. You on that keto diet?
Candidate
guys,
was
relax,
on the campaign. She got a video about it. It's on her Facebook, or it's on her
Twitter. Let me offer one here, which is Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton literally compared Trump's rally in Ohio last week to Nazi leader Adolf Hitler's speeches. Speaking of the Texas Tribune Festival in Austin, she made reference to Hitler's speeches, which saw people raise their right arms in the air in the Nazi salute.
You know what's so funny? Okay, so here's what's going on, because I'm seeing this for the first time. What's funny is you've got Piers Morgan, Jack Posobiec, and Isabel Brown, and he asked the question. He's the one that posed the question. Tell me what high-ranking Democrat has called Donald Trump Hitler. And so Posobiec and Brown and Piers Morgan, they're all bringing the receipts. And he's overwhelmed with all of the evidence that is being thrown in his face, and he's got nowhere to go.
I remember as a young student, trying to figure out how people basically got bought in by Hitler, she said. Louise. How did that happen? I'd watch newsreels and I'd see this guy standing there ranting and raving and so on. It happens all the time.
Yeah, so this is just, you know what this is? This is just another example of these Democrats and these influencers who, what they're trying to do is they're trying to gaslight America again. And again, this Sisson, he had nowhere to go. They got him dead to rights, and people clearly know that Tim Walz, October of 2024, compared Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally to that 1939 pro-Nazi event at Madison Square Garden. He's likened ICE policies to the Gestapo and Donald Trump to descending into madness like Hitler, citing desires for generals like Adolf Hitler. Jasmine Crockett calling Donald Trump Timu Hitler, a low-budget version of Hitler, and a wannabe Hitler, tying it to rally comparisons with 1939 Nazi events. Jerry Nadler did the same thing. Kamala Harris did the same thing. Joe Biden compared Donald Trump's language to Adolf Hitler's and Mussolini's. And Joan, do you know how long it took me to find all that?
Yes.
10 seconds. You go to Grok and it's all right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I don't know what this guy, I don't know why he is trying to run from this narrative that the Democrats have been playing since Donald Trump came into office, since he came down that elevator.
It's been a long time they've been TDSing.
So why does he, I guess my question is, I'm a little confused. Y'all have been, Democrats, y'all have been very proud and really unrelenting in calling Donald Trump Hitler. So why is he trying to deny it? Why don't you just steer into it? That seems to be, I don't know, what they believe has been working for them. And by the way, you got Hillary Clinton, Hank Johnson, you've got Al Gore. I mean, all of these people, Pramila Jayapal, I mean, I could go on. And then you start going into, okay, so those are all high-ranking Democrats. We could go into the media because the media has certainly been guilty of this as well. So there's no shortage of evidence that these Democrats have been calling Donald Trump Hitler. So I don't know what all Harry is trying to do. Maybe it was not in his Democrat, talking points, the facts that paper fax, not the fax, FACTS, but the FAX. I'm dating myself. But maybe it wasn't on his facsimile that came in over the last 24 hours. But, I mean, it is clear that this is a narrative that the Democrats have been trying to put forward for a long time. Day 22, in case you're just joining us, just waking up, yes, the government is still shut down. John Fetterman, need some video and some audio, please. John Fetterman was asked about all of this, of course, one of the few Democrats that has the sense to say, yeah, maybe we do need to keep the government open.
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day, and I'm just saying, and it's not entertaining. That's a great movie, but this is shit. And now it's like real damage is are now touching the lives of regular Americans, and we all lose, and it's embarrassing to our allies and to our enemies abroad.
You know who it's embarrassing to? It's embarrassing to Democrats. And by the way, Fetterman is correct. This is touching the lives of the American people. Joan, you sent me an email from a woman, and it's one of our dear listeners who her life has been impacted by this shutdown. If you're like a contractor for the government, your life has been impacted. Sam was telling me off the air that a friend of his was going to get involved with the GI Bill, right? He was going to get his education paid for with the GI Bill, and he's just getting ready to utilize it. And now that the government is shut down, he can't get his paperwork through. And so now he's talking about, instead of going to college on the GI Bill like he was promised, because of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, because of their shutdown, he's now looking at doing what? Getting a temp job, because he's on medical disability, and that's going to get cut off. I mean, it's awful. And so Fetterman is right. And here's the deal. It is clear. I mean, all you got to do is read the stories and look at who voted for what. And every single Republican has voted to keep the government open. The Democrats, by and large, have voted to keep the government closed. So Republicans are saying, and now Donald Trump is out there saying, and I'll get to some specifics here in a minute, but Trump is out there now saying that I'm not going to talk to the Democrats. Why should I? Because you got Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, and they're saying, oh, Donald Trump needs to get involved. And, Trump is saying, screw you. Why should I get involved? There's no point in having a conversation until the Democrats vote to reopen the government. And if they're not going to reopen the government, well, then why am I going to bother to try to help them out of this absolute mess that they have put themselves in? So now we're 22 days in. And it seems to me, I don't know. It doesn't seem like there's any sign that the government is going to open up any day soon. And for Trump, he's like, why am I going to help them? Why should anybody send the Democrats a lifeline? They know that this shutdown is on them. Look at the polling. A while back, when this whole thing first started, the American people were blaming both Donald Trump and the Democrats. But now, more and more, as the messaging is out there and as people are beginning to realize exactly what is going on, that the Republicans want to simply open up the government and then start negotiating. The Democrats want to keep the government closed, and that is how they have voted. There was a moment, I think this is on local Memphis TV, where a representative there who I believe has been anti-Trump, bringing in additional security, whether it be National Guard or the surge of other law enforcement, because, of course, we all know that Memphis has some crime problems. But listen to how this representative starts talking about how things have changed in Memphis. Behavior has changed in Memphis. Listen to this and watch this on Super Talk TV.
Yeah. So what's your overall take, though, on the Memphis Safe Task Force? Because some are, of course, touting, saying crime numbers are really dropping down. Other folks are saying, well, I think they were already dropping before they got here. How do you see it, Representative?
Yeah, they were already dropping before they got here, and apparently they're dropping more. You can't argue that. I mean, you can see behavioral differences, in our communities. You know, people are rushing out to get their tags now, right? You know, you can switch lanes without a fin almost knocking you off the freeway, you know, zipping past you at 1,000 miles per hour. There are behavioral differences that are happening, and it's evident.
So there you go. So, I mean, look, behavioral changes. So in Memphis, maybe that means that people aren't murdering each other. I mean, maybe that it sounds like. I think what I'm getting from this representative's words and what he said is that if you got a bunch of law enforcement around, and you heard Governor Lee say, this was a couple of weeks ago, Governor Lee said, you know what, we're probably going to have some semblance of an extra law enforcement surge in Memphis forever, or as long as it takes. And so if you're seeing behavioral differences, and that behavior that we saw before law enforcement surge was murder, robbing, raping, you know, gang activity, all that kind of stuff, and that is now going by the wayside, then to save lives in Memphis and across the country, do what Donald Trump did and just put some law enforcement in those cities, and you will see those behavior changes. Want to check in with Daniel Flesch, foreign policy analyst with the Heritage Foundation, and our guest. And Daniel, you've been keeping us up to speed on everything going on in Israel. J.D. Vance, apparently, from what I can tell, is in the office of Benjamin Netanyahu right now. And so the vice president, along with others from the administration in Israel, as you and I have spoken about before, we had that skirmish between Hamas and Israel, Hamas attacking some IDF troops. And so Israel, of course, responding in kind. A lot of people saying, oh, the deal is in peril. What do you say?
Well, good morning to you, Dan, and thanks for having me back on. They're both right and wrong at the same time. You know, we have a situation developing where you have kind of a paradoxical situation of the war is continuing to an extent, but also the ceasefire is holding. What I mean by that is, per the terms of the ceasefire, Israel withdrew to what's called a yellow line, an area where it controls about 53% of Gaza Strip. Within that area, IDF has obviously security control, and so there is stability, and Gazans are able to start to kind of pick up their lives and return to their daily business. On the other side, Hamas is in control. They are yet to release about 13 deceased hostages that were required to release as a terms of phase one of the agreement, and they are conducting summary executions of resistance groups around the area they control. So you have the situation where there's stability in the IDF-controlled area, there's not in a Hamas-controlled area, and with Vice President Vance in the region to administer President Trump's message that Hamas will be destroyed either by the IDF or perhaps an international force comprised of Arab and other countries, that's being put together, and that's what he's there to do, to try to see how you can transition to a civil military operations in the Strip. So, like I said, you do have the ceasefire holding, but you also still have active conflict going on.
You know, Daniel, it's really interesting. I don't know where you are, but every other sentence, it sounds like you go off into, you know, some sort of stratosphere, and then you come back. So I don't know if you can walk outside, get near a window, whatever. But I think I got the gist of what you said. So when it comes to this, basically the vacuum that is happening inside Gaza right now, the power vacuum, Israel, of course, has pulled back, and Hamas has been summarily executing the folks that they consider their rivals. Is there any indication, not that it really matters, but is there any indication that the people that Hamas have been executing, you know, are they really people that have been cooperating or had been cooperating with Israel? Again, not that it matters, but I mean, or are they just finding people they don't like and taking them out?
Right, and apologies, I moved to an area, hopefully a clearer connection. It's mainly the latter, in that there are not so much people who have been cooperating with Israel. Those individuals are very few and far between in Gaza for the last 2 years, but it's rather other clans. And Gaza, like most of the Arab world, is societies built on tribal connections. So you have other tribes that even predate the creation of Hamas back in 1988, who have their own individual power bases and security operations inside Gaza, and they are vying for control. Not so much because they want to replace Hamas, but they want to defeat Hamas, because they know, unlike most people in the West, they know that a Hamas in Gaza is no future for Gaza or the Palestinian people there. So this is not so much, they're calling it retribution against those who've been helping Israel, but the reality is more like they're trying to stifle any sort of dissent or challenges to their own power.
Let me ask you, it sounds great, Daniel. Connection is perfect. So do you think this deal is going to be able to last long term? I mean, how will Israel or some of these other nations, because Donald Trump posted yesterday that he's got all of these Middle Eastern nations that are ready to go in there and basically take care of Hamas. And then Donald Trump also posting, and Israel will go back in there in a moment's notice. How easy would it be to eradicate Hamas?
Difficult. Still possible. But I tell people, cross your fingers, but do not hold your breath. The only organization or force capable of really defeating Hamas, capable with the will to do so, is the Israel Defense Forces. Now, you can cobble together an international force of other Arab countries, but are you going to have Jordanian soldiers going after Hamas into tunnels? Or what if you have a Hamas fighter who's starting to interdict aid supplies or threaten Palestinian people? Are you going to have a Saudi or a Turkish soldier engage that Hamas operative? The answer is likely no. So there might be the capability to defeat Hamas, but there's certainly not the political will to do so. So that's why I say the paradox at the beginning is you have a ceasefire holding to some extent, but also this conflict is continuing. And the conflict shall continue in the long term if Hamas does not disarm and is still a part of some sort of governing structure going forward. So the president has intimated that there are Arab countries who want to be involved in the Hamas right now controlled side of Gaza to provide relief. You already have the Turks providing water and some food there as well. So it could be a long process. Unclear exactly how we get from A to Z, but they're starting to put the A to B to C steps together.
One of the things that President Trump said, Daniel Flesch, by the way, joining us on Super Talk 99.7 for an update on J.D. Vance, who is right now in Israel meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu on the ceasefire. One of the things that was part of President Trump's 21-point solution was that there would be no rebuilding and no aid or anything in Gaza-controlled territories. So as of right now, the 22nd of October at 6:45 Central Time, how much territory has Hamas given up?
So the IDF controls about 53%. So that means Hamas has about 47% of Gaza. And Israel has been establishing, it's called the Yellow Line. That's just the name they assigned to it. They're actually establishing markers throughout the Yellow Line, throughout Gaza, for Gazans to know this is the Israeli side of the controlled territory. Now, when Hamas actually disarms, or if they disarm, again, I'm not holding my breath, Israel has agreed per the 20-point plan to pull back even further towards the Israeli territory, but still maintain some percentage of Gaza, really as a demilitarized zone. And that's right now what the Yellow Line is offering. So, and it's really at that phase that you're supposed to have reconstruction begin. Again, we are still probably weeks, if not months, away from that. In addition to the vice president being in country, you had Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff there. They've just established with Israel a civil military affairs building, essentially a task force in southern Israel to try to start administer parts of the president's plan. But right now, the main question is, how do you get Hamas to disarm? And for Israel, how do you get Hamas to return the 13 deceased hostages that were promised?
So how will Israel actually be able to confirm that Hamas has turned in their weapons?
The intent is not for Israel to be the confirming party for that. The intent is, per the president's 20-point plan, this international stabilization force will report to the Board of Peace, of which the president is the chairperson of, and it's comprised of numerous European and Arab countries, that international stabilization force will be put together, will be inserted into the Hamas-controlled parts of Gaza, and they will enforce the disarmament and make sure Hamas does not play a part going forward. Again, it's hard for me to see that actually coming to fruition. And that's why I say cross your fingers, but don't hold your breath.
Yeah, I mean, you can't see me right now, but I'm kind of laughing because I don't know how. I mean, obviously, you cannot trust Hamas, but what the president can do, and he has done, is he was able to do what he did with Iran, take out some of their nuclear capability, put the sanctions on so that they're not really able to fund Hamas or Hezbollah, et cetera, and go in there and do everything you can do to make life as hard as possible for Hamas and get this coalition of nations that would support President Trump and Israel in hoping for, a model for lasting peace, as J.D. Vance has said. And so it seems to me like President Trump has gotten this far, especially getting the hostages released. I don't think any president has gotten this far, have they?
Certainly not. I mean, what the president has done, going back to his first administration with the Abraham Accords, is think literally outside the box for how to achieve. People use the word peace in the Middle East. Let's not be so ridiculous to think there will be peace in the Middle East, probably in our lifetimes, but rather, how do you achieve, as the moniker goes for the Abraham Accords, normalization or stability? How do you realize that there are aligned interests and aligned threats between Israel and some of the Arab countries, that Israel is not a problem in the region, but it's actually a solution? And one comment more about the long-term vision for, or what's kind of taking shape in Gaza, whereas the president's plan, again, is thinking outside the box. What you're seeing established, essentially, is an East Berlin, West Berlin type situation following World War II, where in the Israeli-controlled part of the Gaza Strip, you're going to have stability, security. You'll have eventually Palestinians returning to their normal lives. You will have reconstruction and rebuilding. And in the Hamas-controlled part of the Gaza Strip, you're going to have continued chaos in a failed state. So you'll have a litmus test for what stability can look like, or what Hamas-controlled tyranny can look like. And eventually Palestinians in Gaza could probably vote with their feet. Now, granted, most of the population is under the Hamas control. There's a lot more challenges there. But because I don't expect Hamas to disarm, because they've said they won't disarm, and if they do disarm, that will be the end of Hamas for a variety of reasons, and obviously that's not in their interest, then I expect to see this yellow line be a new demarcation point between two Gazas, one controlled, at least temporarily right now, by the Israeli Defense Forces, allowing Palestinians to return to their lives and reconstruction to begin. And on the Hamas-controlled side, you'll still have this internal civil war. You will not have significant levels of reconstruction, and you'll still have that part of Gaza remain a threat, which will mean that Israel still needs to maintain its presence in Gaza going forward.
You've got the president and other leaders who are going to be in charge of sort of enforcing the peace, if you will, in Gaza. And, of course, you have the IDF and Israel and everything they've done. But let me ask you this, because people seem to have – everybody's got a different opinion on the people of Gaza and where they stand with Hamas. Are they supporters of Hamas? Are they afraid to speak out against Hamas because they have this habit of executing the people that they consider enemies? The people in Gaza, and I know that there's millions of them, but where do they stand with Hamas? Do they support them or not?
The short answer is yes. And however, it's not so much that they support Hamas, although polls before October 7th, Hamas had an 80 or 85% approval or support rating. That's dipped certainly in the last 2 years, but it's still a sizable percentage of Gazans support Hamas. But you still have this fighting because other, as I said earlier, tribes and clans are trying to remove Hamas from power. It's not obviously out of love for Israel, but maybe a dislike for Hamas because they want a different future for Palestinians in Gaza, but not so much to make peace or security or stability with Israel. And this is also a longer-term issue in that the idea of denazification or really de-Hamasification of the Gaza Strip is a must-do if the Palestinians want to have a future, because you have a population, as we saw from Hamas's own GoPro cameras on October 7th, and as survivor hostage testimony has attested to, that this population is highly radicalized against Israel and the Jewish people. So even if you do have Hamas disarmed, you do have a new governing structure going forward. The fact is you have generations of people who have been brought up on education materials provided by the United Nations, UNRWA in particular, this refugee agency for the Palestinians, to hate and want to kill Jews, Israelis obviously specifically. Yep. So it's not so much a hate for Hamas or love for Hamas, it's still a hatred for Israel.
All right, I've got like 45 seconds left. Story earlier, Daily Mail, a couple of other places as well, saying that Hamas was getting ready to have a major attack on their own people there in Gaza. And word is they were going to seriously, without a doubt, break the peace accord. And so I don't know if you've heard of anything, but if they were going to attack their own people, and it sounded like these were going to be people, outside of their military or political enemies. I mean, what do you think they might be planning if that's true?
So again, this is more of the same. If over the summer you had an article in the Wall Street Journal, which one of these clans talked about how we have stabilization opportunities outside of Hamas in Gaza. So for Hamas to then go against and attack its own people, it is trying to assert its own power in this vacuum, in this kind of no man's land of time that has been created after the ceasefire and before some sort of international stabilization force is created. So you're going to have this for some time, and this is why Israel also is conducting operations still against Hamas, because Hamas is sometimes in the attempt to attack other Gazans, it is killing or attacking IDF soldiers. The IDF is getting caught in the middle. So this is why I say you have the ceasefire holding in a limited fashion, but the war and conflict is still continuing.
All right, Daniel, always great to have you on. Appreciate that insight. Daniel Flesch, expert, a foreign policy expert with the Heritage Foundation. It is 6:52 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. WTN. I don't know, Joan, fingers crossed with Israel.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're able to, I don't know, and enforce not Israel, but the peace group that Trump is heading up. This is going to be tough, because you've got an entire people where for generations they've been taught to hate and to kill Jews. And you can't just, turn that around on a dime. So This is going to be a really, really long-term situation.